601-948-5950. 601-948-5950. And my co-host tonight is Miss E.J. Russell. Welcome, E.J., to the program.
All right, it's so good to be here.
It's glad to have you back. I know you've been traveling a bit, so we're glad to have you back in the city of Jackson.
All right, it's always good to be back, and I got back just in time for the debate the other night.
Yes.
I
watched How was it, by the way?
Well, I watched it streaming, so It was very interesting.
Okay.
And of course, when you were watching it streaming, you could see people posting comments.
Oh, wow.
Along the way.
Wow.
And it was interesting.
Okay.
That's probably the best word I can use. It was interesting.
Okay. Well,
but the 5 candidates who were there at least had an opportunity to present their ideas on the various questions that were asked. It was a conversation, if you will. So it was a good format. It was a little different, but it was a very good format. And the 5 candidates had an opportunity to give some in-depth answers. So that was good. And the audience seemed to get involved. They were having a good time. It was pretty crowded, too, there. I could see.
I saw some pictures posted. It looked like it was a really good crowd. AARP was one of the sponsors.
AARP was one of the sponsors. And I think they had a couple of other sponsors, but I know that AARP was one of their major sponsors. And maybe, was it the Link newspaper?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And, I think one of the good things, I'm hoping that with the number of forms that's being produced this year regarding the mayoral candidacy, is that it brings a whole new group of folks to the table. Let's hope that also the number of forms that we're having throughout the city is going to also make a difference at the ballot box, and that we have a lot more voters that are participating, and a lot more voices that's going to be heard.
Well, I hope so, and I hope that voters are being informed. I hope that voters are listening, and even though you may favor a candidate, at least give the other candidates an opportunity to be heard and to listen to what they have to say, and listen to the facts. Check the facts. If they say something that's outlandish or whatever, do your fact checking so that you can know and understand who's got a plan, a proactive plan for Jackson, and not just being reactive. Because I believe the city is at a crossroads, and it's going to be important who the next mayor is. Rhetoric is good, cliches are good, showmanship is good, but you really need to look at who can deliver ultimately.
And I'd like to talk about that a little bit more, EJ. We're going to take Dr. Quinn, I think, is ready for us.
Right.
Welcome, Dr. Quinn, to Women for Progress Radio.
Hey, how y'all doing today?
We're doing wonderful.
How you beautiful ladies doing?
We're doing great.
Well, look, today I kind of wanted to elaborate on what we talked about last week, only because I've been working really hard to make this into a news story, and I've been doing a lot of research, reaching out to a lot of different facilities that provide opportunities for children in the summer, especially opportunities that don't cost any money to the parents out of pocket, because I realize that a lot of parents out there are working hard, maybe working 2 jobs, trying to provide for their families. And some of those summer programs, and just to recap for those out there in the listening audience that may not have heard my portion last week, I talked about children participating in summer programs. And basically I talked about how a lot of kids out there that participate in these programs, they do better. They do better in so many aspects of their achievements. And I talked about different studies that I researched over the past weekend prior to last week, and how these studies unanimously demonstrated that children that participate in summer programs do better academically the following year. They have reported better self-esteem. They have better confidence. They have better weight as far as not gaining a lot of weight over the summer. And just to kind of focus on that was the fact that these programs, they provide lunch in most cases, and some provide breakfast. And these are meals that are strategically healthy meals. And the research showed that when kids were left at home all day, they had less activity because they didn't get out and play and exercise. They would just play those games and watch television. And they would be allowed to choose whatever they wanted to eat. And in a lot of cases, their choices were not the healthiest choices. So these programs have so many advantages, but just wanted to sort of extend that conversation because I had a really good conversation today with the city of Jackson, and they were talking about the scenario of all these kids applying for the summer programs, but they were filling up really quickly. And then they even went as far as to say that they reached out to private businesses such as mine, and a lot of these private businesses were actually surprised that kids needed opportunities in the summer. So the private businesses were offering jobs for kids that were unable to get placed. They could just come work at these private businesses during the summer and have a chance to get out of the house and, learn things, but also earn a little money so they could buy their own clothes when school starts.
Well, that's. I'm so glad you're supporting that and giving shout out to that, Dr. Quinn, because even if they don't have businesses, don't maybe not have employment opportunities, is also businesses might want to donate and help by sponsoring a child at some type of summer camp. Jackson State University has a lot of exciting programs. You can find that information out on their websites. Twin Lakes has an awesome program that they have also. There's just so many that are all around the city. And if there is no job opportunities, definitely sponsoring your child, if it's only for a week or 2 weeks, would be an awesome opportunity also.
Well, I'm going to tell you, I put a post on Facebook today, and it was for Throwback Thursday. And it was an interview I did on WFP a couple of years ago. And I talked about a scenario where I broke up a fight. There were some girls fighting, and I decided to break it up. And anyway, long story short, I actually got suspended for 3 days. And I got scratched all down my neck. And my mom, she had to come to the school to get me. And I thought she would take my side. I was like, man. And she said, oh, you're not going to sit your little tail in the house for 3 days. Mm-hmm. She actually dropped me off at a construction site and told the supervisor of the construction site that Tim will just work here for free if you need him to pick up boards or dig holes and I had to work 3 days with no pay. But my mom was so adamant that she did not want me sitting in that house unsupervised all day because she knew, and this is what I want to conclude with on this segment. Kids that are left at home unsupervised are going to get in trouble.
That's right.
And, I'm not going to tell the story. I try to sneak the girlfriend into the house, and all that stuff, just like all the little bad kids do. So, that's another benefit to getting your kids in summer programs because they have less opportunities to get in trouble. Because when these kids sit at home all day, and see now, I'm considered with the old people now. But now they get on that internet and they can get in touch with those predators and they can manipulate these young people. They have young minds. And just like that kid that was homeschooled and she's meeting a guy in the woods, I don't know if you all remember that, to go to New York. And that's terrible. But apparently she had a lot of time unsupervised on computers. It's just so important that we keep our kids busy, and it keeps them from getting into trouble, or at least it helps, so they won't have all that idle time for the devil's workshop.
Yes. That is so true, so very true, and it's important for parents to realize that exercising the body a little bit during the summer, as well as exercising the brain, getting kids to read something rather than just play mindless video games, can be a benefit all the way around.
Oh yeah, and for those listeners out there that have Facebook, if they go to my Facebook page, they can see the post that I put today. It's Dr. as in Dr. Dr. Timothy Quinn, and they can like that page and they can see my post. But in this interview, I talked about a research study where they showed kids to take a test at the end of the school year, and they followed that group, and some of the kids did summer programs and some did not. They took the same exact test the beginning of the following year, 2.5 months later, and the kids that did programs where they exercised their brain, they did better on the test, or at least about the same. But the kids that sat at home all summer, unanimously, they all did poorly on that same test. And it's just the scientific deal. If you don't use it, you lose it. So if you have a kid that's not exercising his brain and academically challenging himself all summer, then it's going to take him a while to catch up. So it's so important to keep our kids active. And like you said, they have a reading list, because I know my daughter does. Well, we buy extra books for her to read so that over the summer her brain will continue to be sharpened and well-tuned so she can perform when the school year starts and she won't be behind.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Quinn, for this great information, and we'll send individuals to your Facebook page, and that's Dr. Dr. Timothy Quinn.
Yes,
and
ma'am,
where
they
you
can like it, and I put a lot of posts on there just to continue to educate my community and empower and keep everyone strong and informed.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Quinn. Have a good evening, and we look forward to talking with you next week.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
That's very, very good information. And let me give audience just a run through of our agenda tonight, because this is another exciting programming we have coming up in just a few seconds. Hinds County Election Commissioner for District 2, Ms. Tomie Johnson. And we're going to be talking about voter registration and updating your home addresses. And I think the Secretary of State's office has some new things that are on the horizon too. Maybe we can talk about that. Miss Alice Tisdale, publisher of Jackson Advocate, and she is one of the Women for Progress honorees for Women's History Month for the month of March. And then we have two other honorees that's going to be joining us later on in the program. Justice Tomie T. Green, Circuit Court District 7, and Attorney Patricia Bennett, Interim Dean of Mississippi School of Law. And we're going to talk women and law and politics and families and empowerment. So we have a very, very powerful agenda scheduled for tonight. So tune in, call your friends right now, tell them to tune in to WNPR 90.1 for the discussion. Well, before we cut to Dr. Quinn, we were talking about the upcoming election and what people need to prepare for. And I wanted to add that you talked about being open to all the candidates, really reviewing their information, studying them well. And also, I would like to say, too, even before we attend these forums or as we thinking about and getting prepared to go to the polls, is to make a list of the things that you think, one, what is important for you as an individual, for your family, for your community, and then move on and branch out. What does our city need? What do we need from even on a state level? And then make yourself a list of those questions and or information you would like to hear from the candidates, so that you can be very, very prepared when we go to the polls. And you can make really informed decisions, not just for yourselves on an individual basis. There may be a candidate you say, well, I kind of like him, I like the way he talks, but we need to dig just a little deeper and make sure that we are making good decisions for the whole.
Who can make things happen
Yes.
and not just be reactive or sound good?
Right.
We have to look beyond those things and find someone who can be an effective leader to get some things done for the city of Jackson.
And let's welcome Ms. Tomie Johnson, who knows a lot about that, because she just ran an awesome race for Hinds County Election
And she
Commissioner.
hosted a forum.
Exactly.
We did.
Exactly.
Good afternoon, ladies. How are you all? Good
We're
to be
doing
here.
great.
Glad you're here.
Yes, and we cannot tell you all congratulations enough for
Thank
the
you.
new election commissioners that have come in. You all have hit the ground running.
Literally running.
Yes.
Literally running.
So we're very excited
rest.
about the
None.
work that you all doing, and love to see that young, powerful blood that is flowing through our city and making things happen. So talk to us about
Young
all
and
the information you
qualified.
bring.
Yes.
Let's
Young
make
and
sure we
qualified.
add
Yes.
that.
Another character we need to look
You
for.
got
in
to
our
do the
candidates.
groundwork
Gotta do the
to
work,
arrive
right.
where we are.
Right.
So we are about 90 days, the first 90 days in office. And it's been interesting, all what we expected and probably plus some. We've been very busy because we came in on a time that the election commissioners help with your municipal races here in the city of Jackson, Clinton, Byron, Bolton, and Edwards. So we're learning, we're hitting the ground running, and we're busy at the same time. So I wanted to reach out to let people know that, of course, we're here for questions if you have concerns, if you need help. But two big things that we see on a day-to-day basis, day in, day out, we get a lot of return mail, and they are jury summons, and they are voter notification cards. So what that means is typically the addresses that are on the voter rolls, either people are moving and not updating the information, or something is getting crossed in the path. And typically, what we saw in November, we had a high number of affidavit ballots. And we know when you have to vote affidavit, that means either you go to your, what you think is your precinct, and your name is not on the roll book. So by law, you cannot turn anybody away, so they let you vote affidavit. And after the election, you go through a canvassing process, what we do, to check the system to see if you're a registered voter and if you went to the right precinct. If you went to the correct precinct and you just maybe didn't have something, your vote counts. If you were removed from the roll or at the wrong precinct, your vote doesn't count. So what we want to do is make sure that we try to reach our communities and let people know that if you're moving, if you migrated, it is very important. We don't want to stalk you, but we want to make sure we have the correct address to put on the roll book. So if you move, please, please, please call us. Our number is 601-968-6555. If I'm not there, one of the other commissioners there or our office manager is there, they can take that information and update it. It also means if you want to serve on a jury, and I know, EJ, you're a judge, this is very important. The pool of jury selection is pulled from the registered voters. If they send you a summons and your address isn't updated and it returns to us, which it typically does, you cannot be considered to serve on that jury because you haven't gotten the notice. Now, what we do try to do is go in the system, see if there's a phone number, check the Department of Public Safety side to see if the address is changed, to kind of track you down and find you and resend that information. But it would really help if people moved, they would call and let us know. And that also puts you in the right precinct where you will be voting where you live, which is the law.
Which is the law.
Which is the law.
And which will benefit you ultimately in the end, because what happens if a person has lived somewhere for 4 or 5 years and they still voting at mama's address? And now you feel compelled to run for office.
Can't do it. You cannot do it.
You don't meet the residency.
You don't meet the requirements. So that is a huge, huge issue. We also want to let people know that the deadline to register new voters is going to be April 1st at noon. Now, with these being municipal elections, you will go to your municipal city clerk's office to cast your absentee ballots if you are voting absentee already. You wouldn't come to the circuit clerk's office or to the courthouse to do that.
But you still got to register.
You still will register.
At the circuit clerk's office.
Correct. And you can also register at your city clerk's office, and they'll forward it over to the circuit clerk's office. But it has to be done for this election by April 1st. And I also want to add that if you don't register or if you don't change the address, when we go in and pull those poll books for the municipal elections, you will not be on there.
And you want your voice to be heard. You want to have a say in who's going to be the next mayor,
and we don't do a
council members.
Mass purging. I know there was an article that came out last week. We follow the law, and by statute, there are certain days, certain months of the year that you have to do purging. So there's not an abrupt mass purging. We follow the law as it relates to keeping our poll books updated, and it's a weekly, daily task that has to be done.
And if we've got some listeners out there who don't quite understand the purging process, would you explain that to them?
Well,
and what happens?
Certain. One is if your jury summons returned. That's called a trigger notice. So when, by law, we're supposed to go in that system. If your notice come back, we're supposed to send you a voter registration card. Until we receive that card back, you're supposed to be placed in inactive status. If we ran an updated poll book and you're in an active status, then you would not be on that voter registration book. So it's very, very important to do that. If you miss 2 federal elections and we go in the system and we discover that, you can be removed from the books. If you moved outside of Hinds County, you can be removed off the poll book. So there are several things that can have you purged and put in the inactive status.
And federal elections include more than just the presidential
More than
election.
just the presidential election.
Because some people say, "Oh, I vote for the president." Yeah, but you got senators and representatives that you need to vote for.
Now, are these all automatic triggers that are in the system, or these things have to be manually done?
These things have to be manual. If we get the mail that returns, either a jury summons, notification card, those are things that are trigger us to go in and say, here, where is this voter? Let's see if they're still here. And there's also a report that comes from the Secretary of State's office that people may move, they may die, and they may alert us to say, hey, double check these particular names. We've seen activity just to make sure that they're either still in the county or they haven't moved out. Now, if you move, that's something totally different. If people are dying or, they're not on Hines County Road, we completely understand it. But if you're here in the city, in the county, it's very important that we have the updated information so we can keep track with you to make sure that you're on the road.
Now, how much of this information can we get updated online?
Now, the Secretary of State, I think they have information where you can only change your address, but you cannot register to vote online for the first time. That legislation did not pass, again, unfortunately, this session, but we'll try again. There are also some things on there as it relates to, I guess, your IDs when you go to vote. That's something that I've been talking to my students about. You can use your college ID as long as it has your picture on there and student and some other forms that you have. But I definitely know that you can go to the Secretary of State's office and change your address if you are a registered voter and put that information in.
You mentioned 90 days. What have you learned new since you've been in this position?
Get a list out.
That's a whole program.
You can never read too much of the election code. It's probably 600 or 700 pages, and it relates to something you do every day. If it's a question about the ballot style, learn how to build ballots, learn how to go into Sims, purge people, add them to the rolls, mail merges. We've also learned how to go in and, as it relates to kind of redistricting, if some of the addresses or lines have changed. Some areas are outside of the city limits in certain municipalities, like maybe Terry or Byron, and some are not. So it's important that those addresses are reflected in Sims. So when you go in and pull your rolls for your municipal elections, you won't have people in the county that on the voter rolls to be able to vote in your city races. So we've learned a lot. It's a day-to-day learning experience. You get questions. And we always refer back to our election code. So right now we're busy building ballots for the municipal elections, getting the voter rolls ready. Since the April 1st deadline is coming, we print an initial book, maybe January, February, for the candidates that are qualifying, and so people can go in and kind of verify the people that are voting. Right. Then after the deadline passes, we do a last spread so that you'll have those ready on election day. And we're getting ready for that. So we'll be on standby in the basement for questions answered. Something that I've reached out to some of my schools and done, there's a clause that allows student interns. It's not new. We're not reinventing the wheel, but we hadn't seen a lot of it. If you're 16 years old and you're enrolled in a accredited high school, junior college, or college, you can serve as a student intern, a poll worker. Wow. You have to complete the training, which we would do for any other poll manager or poll worker. And it's a couple things that the students can't do as far as, signing people in. But other than that, they can observe and work the poll as an intern that day. And we want to start doing that to kind of build these people up to be our actual poll managers and poll workers in a couple of years. We would love to have some of my students at Jackson State get their first run in November as interns and lead them up to possibly being full-time poll managers. I think
and
that's
to grow
excellent.
that interest in the world
Start
of politics.
Young. Yes.
Which controls your life whether you like it or not.
It does.
Yeah, our absentee ballots ready.
They
for
are ready.
People. So if someone needs to vote absentee, they can go to their city
clerk's office. Yes, city clerk's office. They should be ready. Now, I know Jackson is ready. Clinton is only having, I think, a primary, a Republican primary, and I think Byron is having a Republican and Democrat. So those are things that we've learned because everyone doesn't have a primary. Exactly. I know some of the small municipalities, Utica, Terry, and Edwards, they're just going to all go to the general in June.
Right.
So A lot of
Yeah,
different
there
things.
was a time when I lived in Rankin County. There was a time when you didn't have a primary election because everybody was a Republican.
Yes.
You know,
or vice versa.
or vice
And if,
versa.
now in Raymond, they're not even having an election because nobody is opposing anybody.
Nobody's
We said,
opposing
bless your
anybody.
heart, y'all make our
Bless
job
your
easier. So yeah, I just wanted to remind people that's very, very, very important. We see that. So I mean, stacks of jury summons that come in, and only thing that we can do is try to find you and resend it out, and of course the trigger card to send a voter notification card. But we follow the law, but if there's any discretion, we want to try to find you to get you in, call you to update your information before it has to go inactive or possibly purged.
Okay, thanks so much, Tony, for coming in and informing us. I know we're going to continue to see you out throughout the year.
And let me give that number again.
Okay.
It's 601-968-6555. You need to change your address. That's the Election Commission's office.
Okay.
Thank you
so
guys.
much.
All right. See
All
you
right.
next time.
All right. Thank you so much for
that
coming
was good
in.
information, DJ.
Oh, very much so.
And while we're on the race, I want to remind our audience that Women for Progress, along with its partners, Delta Sigma Theta Sorority, Jackson Professional Group, and Anderson Orozco Law Firm, are partnering together for April 4th at the Jackson Medical Mall Center Stage for the Jackson Mayoral Forum. It's free and open to the public. We'll have food and beverages, and we're have a wonderful slate of moderators for April 4th, and that begins at 5:30 in the evening on April 4th. 5:30 to 6 is the networking, and then our program and our forum will begin at 6 o'clock. We want everybody to come out, bring your friends, relatives, children, and be part of this very, very important event.
Exactly. And of course, earlier that day, we'll be hosting Lunch and Learn at the Jackson Medical Mall Community Room. So we want everybody to come out and hear Dr. Thea Faulkner, who is with Jackson Public Schools. She'll be able to answer your questions and talk about ways in which individuals and organizations in the community can become involved with Jackson Public Schools and provide some added value and assistance to those students and teachers. We all have our complaints. We all want to moan and groan about what's happening with Jackson Public Schools. This will give you an opportunity to learn how you can be part of the solution and not just complaining.
Right. And also we have to mention our partner for this particular lunch, Mr. Primus Wheeler and Jackson Medical Mall Foundation, who's hosting this event for us. We are excited that he has become a partner with Women for Progress, and we're going to provide lunch. There's no cost. You can't beat that. A wonderful meal. You got to have lunch. You got to eat your meal.
Networking
So
starts
come
at
out.
11:30.
Exactly.
Program promptly at 12.
Yes, and we need everybody to come in early before noon so you can get your proper seating. We think we're going to have a very, very good crowd and a very good participation.
Yes, indeed. Be part of the solution.
Okay, EJ, I'm excited about this lady that we're getting ready to talk to, one of our honorees, and we talk about partners, Women for Progress, and a member, Miss Alice Tisdale, publisher of the historic Jackson Advocate newspaper, has an incredible list of accomplishments to her name. Her Mississippi trek began in 1982 as president of the local NAACP in the all-black town of Mound Bayou, Mississippi. Seeking to fulfill her passion as a photojournalist, Alice has traveled to a multitude of countries, seeking to shed light on such issues as the land issue in Zimbabwe, Africa, the slavery issue in Sudan, Africa, African American business opportunities in Japan, human rights issues, and attended the international AIDS conferences in Barcelona, Spain, Bangkok, Thailand, and Toronto, Canada, and reported on the achievements of African American female pilots in France. She is a recipient of more than 200 awards and certificates, including Woman of the Year and the Medgar Evers Lifetime Achievement Award. Miss Unstoppable never fails to be an active volunteer in social and civic organization. She is a 2014 MetLife Fellow and has written for the Black AIDS Institute and American Media. Her photography has been published by Ebony and Jack magazines, in addition to the Jackson Advocate. Help me welcome Miss Alice Tisdale.
Well,
Yay,
thank you so
clap,
much
clap.
for
We need an
that.
applause
Thank
machine
you.
for all
Yes.
that, I tell you.
Well, I appreciate that. I
Yeah.
love both of you all. Thank you so much, EJ. Thank you so much, Willie, for allowing me to be here.
It is
You
our
know.
pleasure.
Yes.
So it's always nice to, I know it's not the same location, but
Right.
WMPR, when Mr. Tisdale had his show,
Mhm.
you know, I used to just listen to him. I would not come very often, but just to listen to him and how he could motivate the community was such a wonderful thing. So I always have fun when I come to WMPR.
Well, good.
Wonderful.
And this is a rare event too. Women for Progress, you've been a member of for a very, very long time, but I don't think we've ever had an opportunity to sit down and dialogue with you.
Yes, well, I appreciate it so much. And
Yeah.
this is Women's History Month, and you know we celebrate it, and it's been a wonderful month.
Yeah.
And I think it's something that we should do. I was telling people earlier. I says, well, our Black History Edition is the signature for the
Yes.
Jackson Advocate, but over the past few years, you know, people are really pushing for the Women's History issue
Yes.
to take over.
That's right.
Yes.
Well, then you have two really good months, at least
Yes,
February
yes,
for Black History
yes.
and then March for
And that
Women's
that
History.
month's edition is out this week,
Oh,
correct?
yes, please. We want to encourage everyone to pick it up to find out who our Woman of the Year is and to celebrate Women for Progress as honorees. And, you know, we have some other features in there that
Yes.
are really, really nice.
Yes.
So we worked hard on it, and we hope everyone will pick up a copy. It will be a keepsake for sure.
And not only pick up a copy, I have to say, you know, as a businesswoman, I can't stop pushing, is to make sure everybody gets a subscription to
Wouldn't
the
that
Advocate.
be wonderful? We can do
Yes.
so much if we, you know, it's 50 cents. We call it, it's 10 cents a day, it's $36.50. So if people will spend 10 cents a day with us, we could grow so much and be able to help the community because our money goes to help the community. You know, we live very humbly, and so there's very little that we want, and we're willing to invest in the community and hire people and fund scholarships and, you know, give people opportunity for training. And it would just be wonderful if people could see the value in it. But I promise people every week there's something in there worth 50 cents. I promise you. If not, I'll give you your 50 cents back.
Right. And also, I tell you how many calls I get on a regular basis. Where can I pick up a copy of it? Where can I pick it up? So you subscribe, you get it right at your address.
Any
you know when
address
it's going to
you want
come.
in this world, we will send it anywhere in the world. Your P.O. box, your home address, your business address, just wherever you would like it to be delivered, we're willing to do that. And we're improving on services. You know, we have to work with the post office because now everything is not one-day mail.
Right.
You know, it has changed at the post office. So sometimes even to get the Tupelo, you would think it would be 2 days, but sometimes it's 3-4 days. So we're trying to work on those things. But our service, we're willing and committed. If you miss your paper, we'll bring it right to you. You know, we're really committed to service you well.
And sometimes with that U.S. Postal Service, it may be 4 or 5 days.
That's right.
I hate to
Yes.
say it,
You
but
know, and I'm happy you want it. I mean, I'm not mad at all if you call and say, hey, I need my paper. You know, people will tell you, yes, if she says she'll bring it, she'll bring it, you know. And back issues we're trying to get now where we're looking at the archives. It's very important that we take the 79 years that we've done and begin to archive and digitize the photos. Can you imagine how many photos?
I know.
Even in 35 years, I've taken hundreds of thousands of photos.
Right.
So just think of all the other people who've been there.
Well, you need some interns too.
I need all
Yes.
I need all
Yes.
kind of help. But I feel bad because I'm charged to preserve and protect the paper, and I feel bad because I'm not doing an adequate job. Because our history, I cannot lose the history as we create the future and the present. So we really need to make sure that those archives are protected.
Yes.
And,
hopefully some of that stuff may end up in our new state historical museum that's going to be opening
that would
up
be
later
wonderful.
this year.
And with Pamela Jr. there, I mean, she's going to be the perfect person to be, even though she's really on the job now. But she's committed to making sure that our history is preserved. You know, so I'm really looking forward to that. But we really got to get our archives in a way where they're accessible to everybody, not just the ones that are at the Department of Archives and History.
And it's a
Right.
great research tool for our children. And I want to repeat just one more time before we get into discussion is your $36 annually, $36.50 annually will help contribute to the collection of that. And it says that you value what the Jackson Advocate does.
And has done
Yes.
for so many years in the face of opposition and danger.
Oh, for sure.
So,
Yes.
yes, that's very important. We have a call.
Caller, you're live. Welcome to Women for Progress Radio.
Hey, Willie, this is Frank. How you doing?
I'm doing
Hi,
good.
Frank.
Hello, Frank. It's good to hear from you.
Okay, you owe me a text message about that grant for the school.
Okay.
Miss Alice.
Yes.
You talk about your archives every time I see you.
Yes,
I bug you
yes,
about
Frank
that
Mickens.
archive. A couple of free services that will digitize your collection and leave the originals in your possession. You just have to give them some kind of copyright license or something.
Okay.
And I sent you an email as well.
Okay.
So you don't have to get an intern. There are services out there that will do it because the information you have is very valuable.
I appreciate that.
And I don't see why you don't do it. I don't see why the Costco people don't do it. Free services, but you do have to give them a copyright license. I don't know what the terms are,
Okay.
but I can resend that email.
Would you please,
to you
Alice
but
Thomas?
There's no reason for valuable information like you guys have sitting around because we think that we have to get 25 volunteers working 24 hours a day to do it. These folks are
I
professional and
appreciate
they'll digitize it, and you will maintain the physical custody of the hard copies. And I love the Jackson Advocate.
Well, thank you so much. And anyone who has information, my email is alicethomastisdale@gmail.com. And I'd be happy to accept that. Thank you, Frank.
Alice, you talked about 79 years. How has the mission and goals for the paper changed over that period of time?
Well, what happened with me is that when Mr. Tisdale died in 2007, so it'd be 10 years this year. And most of those years, I would say 8 of those years, I really was trying to protect his paper. So now, over the last couple years, I've kind of been okay with ownership of it. So it's getting easier for me to say it's my paper. But it still belongs to the community. So with that new mindset, I can look at running a business as if it's mine rather than just protecting something that's somebody else's. But being mindful of the legacy that he left and what he holds me to. Like he said, never to move out of the Ferris Street district. So it's kind of hard because, the district is, it's failing in what it needs to do, in the community. So keeping that promise is wearing on me very heavily. Can I keep that promise?
Well, hopefully we're going to have a mayor that's going to see Ferris Street revitalized.
Wouldn't that be
We've been
wonderful?
waiting on that for 20 years now.
Yes, yes.
So-
But online, we're trying to build our online. We're trying to build special editions. I think is really what has been keeping us not just afloat, but we're able to put money other places to develop the online. So as we can develop more special sections, special interests, we're having like Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority was kind enough to work with us to do a special section, and then they're working to get subscriptions.
Wow.
And hopefully the Deltas and the Zetas will join, and all
Don't
other
forget those
organizations.
Omegas and Alphas
You know,
and
all of
Alphas.
you,
Yes.
Black women, we're
yes,
calling you out.
100 black men,
Yes.
church
Calling you
groups.
out.
We'll do special sections for you too to, make sure you have a wonderful historic document.
Yes.
And then in turn, all we're asking you to do is to push subscriptions for us.
And it's an
so that we can
empowerment
grow.
tool for their organizations too. Those special editions are wonderful.
I appreciate
And
that.
so it's a great opportunity for organizations and businesses. I mean, we could talk about a special edition on healthcare.
Yes.
Special edition on women-owned businesses. Special edition on judges.
Yes.
EJ. And so there's a lot of different things that people can do. A lot of great ideas. And what I love about you and your staff, Alice, is that you all are very open. You're open to a variety of ideas, and I don't know I don't know of any time you've ever said no,
Oh, we're
as long
happy
as they
to.
stay
it's your
within
paper.
the mission.
I mean, I really believe, other than on payday, it's the people's paper.
Well, and it
Yeah.
does a great job of informing us about us, what's
Mhm.
going on in our
We
communities.
do so many good works.
We do
Yes.
so much, and I can't find it if I read the Clarion Ledger.
Right.
So the Jackson Advocate is a great source to find out what's going on in your community, not only in what happened last week, but looking forward to what's coming up,
Right.
so that you can kind of plan your agenda. There's some great things going on. People complain that there's not a lot going on in Jackson. You know, you got to go to Memphis or New Orleans. I love both those cities. And for the last 15 years of my military career, I was in New Orleans almost every weekend if I wasn't traveling somewhere else for military duty. And Jackson has the same kinds of offerings. We
Mhm.
just don't go when they're offered.
Yes.
Yes, it take Mrs. Pittman to Mrs. Aneva Mae Pittman. She reads our community voices every week to make sure what's going on in the community. So we're happy to let people know what's going on. And feel free, organizations, groups out there, to send your news to us. I mean, we're open. You know, we don't charge for that. You know, send your news to us, and we'll let the community know what's going on.
Yes. And talking about women in business, you know, media as a whole has changed with the internet and everybody's 15 minutes of fame on Facebook, etc. How has that impacted how you all put out the paper?
Okay. Well, we have to stay true to our purpose. And our purpose is to document the history of our community, to empower us with information. So we can't get away from that just because everybody else is doing Twitter and Facebook. And, you know, I know we have to get with the program, but we can't lose focus as to what our purpose is. We're a history paper more than a newspaper. We're going to be that where 20 years from now, you know, the grandkids can see what you were doing in the community. So they have proof positive that my grandmother was active. You know, I have all these clippings from her. I have my scrapbook. This is my grandmother's life right in front of me. So we need to make sure that we make sure our grandkids have scrapbooks and they can put the clippings in there. You know, politicians used to run for office years ago, and if they didn't have a photo file in the Jackson Advocate, we pretty much knew. No, they're not been active. So everybody needs to make sure they have a photo file at the Jackson Advocate.
That's great. But you're right. I mean, it documents what's going on in the community. So if you're out there doing something, there's probably a snapshot somewhere in the annals of the Jackson Advocate.
That's right.
Especially in this community,
Exactly.
specifically.
Yes.
Definitely. And I know your daughter is involved with the
She
paper.
is, and I, you know, I love my daughter. Everybody knows I love my daughter, and her voice. God has given her this beautiful voice, so I don't want to push her so in the paper, though she's willing to do whatever she can. But I feel so bad because she's so talented, and God has given her this gift to soothe people's hearts. So I want her to pursue that. You know, that's my priority, that she pursues it. But she does work with me. I don't want her to do so much for me that she misses her window of being just a superstar opera singer. And she has the capacity to do that.
And she does. That's
You know.
Deanna Tisdale.
Yes,
New last
Deanna
name?
Johnson.
Yes,
Mrs.
yes.
Deanna Tisdale Johnson.
The new Mrs. Johnson.
Yeah, so we love
Beautiful
her,
voice.
and we want her to pursue her career. And when she does that, then the paper is definitely there for her. But every day she's working on the paper, you know. But I don't.
Well, and that's her legacy, though.
It is.
So don't
it
deprive
is.
her of that.
I'm not trying
even
to.
while she pursues that other.
Yes, it's so demanding. You know, opera, classical music is an everyday discipline.
Yes.
It's like we work 9 to 5. Well, I work 9 to 10 probably.
Gotta
but-
run those lines.
Yes, I mean, she's learning Italian, German, Russian, Spanish. I mean, she's learning all Czech, and she's learning all these different languages to do the operatic numbers. And so it's very disciplined, you know, profession.
Right.
But we want to celebrate her and let God use her to do her talent, but also to be committed to her father's legacy.
Right.
And now will be mine.
And eventually hers.
Hers. And
Yeah,
my
exactly.
grandchildren forthcoming.
Yes. Well.
She has a 2-year window.
Now, is that her time? Your
That's mother's time. 2 years alone, and then I want my grandbaby.
All right.
Now, the first, is there any upcoming dates that we can hear, Deanna?
Now, Tougaloo, she's going to be Two Rivers Gala. She's going to be performing. Then April 1, she's performing for the Mississippi Civil Rights, Veterans of the Civil Rights Movement.
Okay.
They're
And what
having
date is
their-
that again?
April 1st
Oh,
is
that's Saturday.
And then the Two Rivers Gala is sometime in May, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah.
So she has 2 upcoming performances. And then she's going to be working on some more opera workshops at the schools and making sure she's helping children to not ruin their voices is what she really wants to do, because they're singing and they can hurt their vocal cords.
Oh.
So she wants to make sure, that they're not going to do that.
Right.
So she wants to do professional development, with children to make sure that, they sing so beautifully. Yeah, but you don't want them to strain their vocal cords and they won't be able to sing anymore. So she wants to protect their singing ability.
Okay.
Very good. Sounds
Now-
like exciting things going on over there.
Exciting.
And Alice has also found the fountain of youth, because she seems to
Yes,
be getting younger
yes,
every time
yes.
I see
It's
her.
the work.
Definitely.
It's the work.
Yes.
It's the work. It's the
That
work.
sounds
Well,
like
when you're doing something you love, it
Yeah.
does, give you that little extra pep in your
And being
step.
around people like you with energy. We need to be around people who have energy and who have passion and committed to community. Because when I go outside of my circle, I'm really just nervous. I'm afraid because people don't get it. They don't get how you fight for justice and how you stay on the battlefield and how you help people and provide and share your talents and your gifts and your resources.
Right.
They don't get it. So I try to stay within my circle of people who really get it. My tribe.
Exactly. And I tell you, if people who don't give back don't understand the value of that, because the more you give, the more you get.
Yes.
And-
Yes. It's all selfish because we're looking for the big prize, and that's to have everlasting life with Jesus Christ.
Right.
So that's the big picture.
It is.
Well, you've been in this business a long time. You have written a lot of different stories. You've been part of a lot of stories. You've photographed a lot of stories. What are some of the major ones that really have impacted you that you'd like to share with us?
Oh, I definitely want to share Sandra Varner. I'd like to give a shout out to Sandra Varner, Oakland, California. We were sitting at dinner. And we didn't really get it that first time. Then I saw her 3 months later in Jacksonville, Florida. And I said, Sandra, there's a reason that we're meeting again. What is it? Let's figure it out. So I said, what do you have going on? She says, well, I'm planning a journalist trip to Barcelona, Spain for the World AIDS Conference. And I says, wow, can I get in on that? And she says, well, we need a photojournalist. I said, I am a photojournalist. So she said, you got your passport? I said, girl, my passport stays ready. So she said, well, let me check. So she comes down 15 minutes later. She says, we got a slot. So I went to Barcelona, Spain. I promise you, it was really for a trip. Really was for a trip. But when I started going to the workshops and seeing the AIDS patients and their passion and trying to get well and getting information, I was pricked.
Wow.
And I became an AIDS advocate. And I started writing and studying. I took training through Red Cross. And to this day, I'm still an AIDS advocate. And so she was really my window. And I got a chance to photograph Mandela and Bill Clinton when he was president, and just in this bond of solidarity. And it's one of my favorite photos. But my favorite photo is one that I did not take. And I was on my way to work, and there was a little boy with a backpack on. And the backpack was bigger than him, Juanita. It was bigger than him. And he was so proud, and he was reared back. And I said, oh, that's just a picture in my head forever. Just wonderful picture. But I was telling Jackson State students today over at their media conference that, I've sat across the table from President Mugabe, and we've had dialogue, and but I've been at a birthday party, and I've sat with kings and queens. I've done the Nile. I've done, the pyramids. I've walked the streets of Rome, But I told a couple that was celebrating their 50th anniversary, I says, you all have not missed anything. I said, you have the best of it. So I believe in marriage. I believe in people that have not traveled, that they really haven't missed anything because it's right there in their backyard.
Yes.
But I do encourage travel because that is what lets you know that you really have the essence of life.
Yes.
And that's family.
Family is what
You
it's
know,
all about.
that's
You know, we talk about that all the time.
Yes.
You know,
Family
but
is
you
it.
must travel for you to really grasp that what you have right here in Jackson, Mississippi, or Memphis, Tennessee, or wherever else you're listening, is that family is everything.
Right.
Family is everything.
An extended family, when you have good friends and you celebrate and you have
Well, that's family.
you know, that's family.
Yeah.
You know?
You know, we used to have a rule when you come the first time you're a visitor, if you continue to come, don't ask about what, you know, give me this or give me that. You just go in the refrigerator and make yourself at home.
That's right. Get that bologna sandwich and sit down.
Exactly.
Turn the channel, whatever you want.
And I'm so glad you brought up the importance of marriage and family and how very valuable it is, because I don't think we talk about that enough, especially to our young women and young girls. Because I tell you, my husband and I, who actually we were married 25 years this month.
Congratulations!
And thank you. And it is the thing that has sustained us. The memories that we've had and shared with, whether it be about family or friends or travel, and it keeps us laughing and remember who we were at different times of our marriage. It is so very, very important. And as we get older, having someone to share things with and share your family with is very, very important.
Oh, so and just fun, humor. You know, make sure you're laughing, you're having fun, take time out, don't get stuck in TV, don't get stuck what you have way down in the book where you can't come up for air, and just enjoy one another.
Right.
Have some conversation. Turn the TV off
That's
sometime.
right. You know, bring out the Scrabble board or your Monopoly or something and just have a conversation. It's important.
And sometimes, you know, just sharing space, quiet time, but you're sharing space with someone special. It's really important.
I think so.
Well, one of the questions we've been asking our honorees during the interview process, and by the way, before I forget, on 95.5, Women for Progress is running a series of spotlights on all of our honorees that's going to run through for the next 7 days. So we're spotlighting on 95.5, if that's a radio station that you've been listening to. I don't know even if I should have said that since I'm on WMPR. But all of this information is going to be spotlighted in various commercials throughout over the next 7 days. But one of the questions we're asking honorees during the interview process is, what would you tell a younger self? Would you like to answer that question?
Oh, yes. To dream. I'm not the typical dreamer, and I really never dreamed. I try to be supportive of other people's dreams, like with Mr. Tisdale when he told me his vision of what he wanted the paper to be. That's something that I gravitated to. I wanted to be a part of.
Make it happen.
And help make it happen. And so now I have an opportunity to dream. And I know Willow, I want to give a shout out to Willow Womack, who's classic printing. And we went to Disney World together. And so she says, oh, this is what dream. You can dream. And dreaming, children, young people, older people, is so important. You know, it's not about vision, because you can't really see it or envision it, but dreaming gives you the opportunity to see what the possibilities are. So if I was a younger me, I would dream more.
Oh, wow.
I would dream more. Because it would open up possibilities. It's not that I'm not satisfied or content or happy with my life now, but I wonder what I could have done to enhance what I'm doing if I had dreamed more.
And everybody can do that.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you get to work to get those things done that you dream about, the execution.
And sharing those dreams with others, like you said, that can help you make those dreams come true. Yes. And you mentioned classic printing, and I just want to shout out to her also. I've given her a lot of work through my business. They do an excellent job.
Yes.
So I want to say to people, if you're looking for a printing company to do some printing work for you, right down on Ferris Street.
That's right. That's right.
And what tell folks where that is, Alice, down on Ferris Street.
Yeah, Ferris Street, where Collins Funeral Home is. That's our landmark in the community. And right across the street from Collins Funeral Home, you'll find classic printing. And it's an outgrowth of Project Reentry that the Jackson Advocates started many, many years ago to put women in business.
Oh.
So
I didn't know that
Yeah,
you were the
yeah.
impetus behind that. I remember the program,
We take notes.
and I remember how Willa
Yeah.
got started
Yeah,
and that whole story.
She's a love, and we so appreciative for her continuing to employ ex-offenders and helping them see their way and want to be businesswomen as well. So we just I tell her business is a hustle. What we want to do is to have a legal hustle, and she's been very, very successful and has new ventures and doing other things. So she's a model for what life can be if you do dream.
And
Well,
the quality
if you
of
do-
work.
and if you have people who support you in doing something different, and this is not our time. We'll have to talk about this on one of our other shows. But the fact that the state of Mississippi does not have a gap, I'll call it, that fills the void when individuals are released from incarceration back to reentry is a gateway to recidivism.
Well, we had
You know?
zero recidivism for 3 years with 86 participants and no federal support. Just we started with a paperclip.
But people had supporters.
Yes.
People who helped them.
Dr.
You
Anderson.
can't just open the gates
Yes.
and tell people go forth and be prosperous.
Yes, Dr. James Anderson and his wife, they let us use their home. They had another home. So we housed them there. People like Dr. Reddix gave them first, medical care, professional medical care,
Right.
Quality medical care. And his wife and Michael, the brother, we had Symphony, the opera, provide tickets. Jackson State University provide tickets to events. Disney World providing tickets for travel. And, so we had everybody working for quality of life, providing transportation,
And 3
recreation.
years, no recidivism.
Zero recidivism.
I mean, that's a feat in
That's
and of
good.
itself.
And I really want to go back to that. So we have to see how we can do that, women.
Yes.
See how we can get back.
Yeah. And I'm hoping with our next set of guests too, we'll talk a little bit more about that too, EJ. But I want to say too, the quality of the services at Classic Printing is awesome. The affordable, wonderful printing and the graphics help if you need that. I cannot say enough. So when we have quality services, I think we need to say so and push people to. And so Classic
She's
Printing on Fair
wonderful
Street.
with people.
Yeah.
Just everything. It just worked out wonderfully well.
Right.
And we've got another one of our guests in here. You going to give us some parting words, though,
Yes.
of advice?
Just thank everyone for your support of the Jackson Advocate. Continue to read us and definitely pick up this week's issue so you can see who our Woman of the Year is.
Yes.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's
Thank you,
what
Alice.
you call a teaser.
Yes.
See who the Woman of the Year is. Thank you
Yes.
so much, Ms. Tisdale.
Well, this has been exciting, EJ.
It has been, and I'm just so
talking with
pleased to
Alice.
learn about that because now we can pick her brain, Willie,
Yes. Yes.
about that. Come on up here and
Next
join
up.
us at the table.
We have the interim dean of Mississippi College School of Law, and I think we're waiting also to Judge Tomie Green will be coming in to sit in with us on our round table. But we'll go ahead and begin this discussions. And I want to introduce Dean Bennett to everyone because everyone may not know her, even though she's been around and working hard within the city of Jackson, Mississippi for a very long time. Patricia Bennett is the interim dean at Mississippi College School of Law. Dean Bennett is also the Henry Vaughn Watkins and Selby Watkins McRae Professor of Law and Director of the Litigation and Dispute Resolution Center. She has taught criminal procedure, litigation technology, mediation, advocacy, and trial practice. In 2014, she was selected as Mississippi College's Distinguished Professor for the entire university. Dean Bennett is a former state and federal prosecutor and served as an Army Judge Advocate General's Court Officer. Dean Bennett was elected on January 31, 2016 to serve as the president of the Mississippi Bar to take office in July of 2018 and served until July 2019. She is now the President-elect designee and will become the President-elect in July 2017 at the annual meeting of the Mississippi Bar. Dean Bennett is the third female, the second African American, and the first female African American to serve as the president of the Mississippi Bar. Dean Bennett has received numerous awards. She's received the Capital Area Bar Association Professional Award, the Hinds County Bar Association Outstanding Service Award, the Mississippi Bar in the Profession Susie Blue Buchanan Award, the Mississippi Women Lawyers Association Outstanding Women Lawyer of the Year Award, the Mississippi College Alumni Association Lawyer of the Year Award, the Mississippi College School of Law Professionalism in the Field of Law Award, the Mississippi College School of Law Faculty Collegiality Award, and the NAACP Jack Young Legal Award. And she has also just recently been honored by Women for Progress for her achievement. So help welcome Miss Patricia Bennett.
Thank you, Willie, so very much. That long introduction, I did not expect that. You went back over my entire life,
yes.
It seems like.
Well, and she still missed some things. So.
Yes, I still had a chunk there that you've been a busy individual, and we're so excited about your various promotions and your achievements at the Mississippi School of Law and all the work that you're doing with our young men and young women in the field of law. So welcome to Women for Progress Radio.
We are training, preparing them for the bar, and we are actively recruiting. So if anyone listening today is interested in law school, consider Mississippi College School of Law. Come to join us.
Okay.
Or if you know someone who would be interested in law school, just refer them to us because we are actively recruiting for the class that's going to come in August of 2017.
Okay.
Well, tell them what number they need to call if they actually know somebody. It's not too late.
It is not too late
Okay.
because they just recently had the February bar admissions exam, the LSAT, and so it's not too late. They can still apply, and we consider that score GPA. You can call the admissions office at Mississippi College School of Law. We are located downtown Jackson. We would love to have you come by and tour the law school. But call the admissions office, or you can just call the general line 925-7100 and ask for the admissions office. So we have a staff there waiting to answer all questions and assist.
Well, this is Women's History Month, and I just read recently a statement from the American Bar Association says that 50% of law students are women. And only 22% of them are partners in law firms. What do you feel is the status of women in the law profession now, especially in Mississippi?
Well, I think when we look at the numbers are about right, and even at our law school, that number would be very comparable to the national average. About 50% of the students coming in are women. And, there are opportunities for women as there are for men. But I think when we think of women and you talk about the 22% that are partners in large law firms, that's correct, but it can be misleading in some ways because there are so many other areas that you can use your law degree. And of course, all lawyers are not necessarily interested in being with a large firm. But that is a concern because when we think of women and their progress in the area of employment, we can't help but think about the phrase that reaching the glass ceiling and can't go any further. And that has been true, and I think it is still true to a certain extent. We have seen many improvements in that area, but I think it still is a challenge to get women placed in some of the top positions. I think the first thing we need to consider is creating opportunities for women in what I would call non-traditional roles or non-traditional fields. And of course, that would be the senior partners in some of the large firms, on corporate boards, because generally those areas we have not seen women. And I think to see more women, as in other areas where we have seen where minorities and others have not had an opportunity, when they are giving an opportunity and others can see the work that they can do, it opens the door for other women to enter. And so certainly we're going to have to continue to push women in those roles, in those positions. And once they are there and at that table, they can clearly open the door for other women to get in and participate. So I think the first thing is creating some of those opportunities for women.
Well, and I would agree with you there, but unfortunately, we're going to go back to some of the old stereotypes. And women, even with supportive partners, they still take on more responsibility for families. And when you're talking about those senior level positions in some of those law firms, it takes a little time to work your way up to that. Well, women have certain clocks that tick, that dictate that it's time to start having children. And generally, when they have those children, if they take some maternity leave,
It tends to put them behind.
It tends to put them behind. I mean, it's just a fact of life. It doesn't make them any less qualified or capable, but the men don't suffer from that because the men, number one, don't carry the baby, they don't deliver the baby, and most of the time they're not going to be the ones who stay home to bond with that child and give it the beginning it needs. And that's a big problem.
Well, and you know, those are considerations, but some of the firms have started to show some improvement in the
great.
time with the women, time off, not letting that absence cause them to lose position or anything there. In addition, I'm told that in some areas they help in providing child care. To have child care, you know, or making arrangements. You know, we see more offices now that have child care there, or they will have, like they do gyms for workout, healthy, to keep a healthy staff there for their employees. So they've started to look at all of these things, and it still is a problem, and more so probably in some areas than in others. But I have seen improvements in that area where women can, you know, still have the baby, come back to work, and not have lost a position. So I think all of those are life decisions that people, that women tend to make, and there have been improvements in the area.
And sometimes too, women may start out with the firm and decide once they have that family that they want an 8 to 5 and not have the challenges that being a practitioner may bring.
And with the millenniums, I think that has changed.
Before we move forward in our conversation, I'd like to bring our guests in. We'll get back to the thought in just a moment. Judge Tomie Turner Green, Senior Circuit Judge. Judge Tomie Turner Green is a product of the Jackson Public School System. After completing the 11th grade, she earned a bachelor's degree from Tougaloo College, a Master of Science degree from Jackson State University, and a Doctor of Jurisprudence from the Mississippi College School of Law. On January 4th, 1999, Judge Green became the first woman elected to the Hinds County Circuit Bench. In January of 2011, Judge Green became Senior Circuit Judge of the 7th Circuit Court, District Hinds County of Mississippi. She is the first African American and the first woman to hold the position in her circuit district. Undaunted by the demands of the Chief Judge position, Judge Green maintains an active and productive civil and criminal dockets. She has remained unopposed at the ballot for 4 consecutive terms. Let's welcome Judge Tomie Green.
Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you for joining us.
Okay, she tell me that I need to talk louder. Good evening. Good
Yes,
being here.
welcome to Women for Progress Radio.
Thank you.
I think this is your first sit-in with our program, so we're very, very excited. We're excited that you are been selected as one of our honorees for Women History Month, and you truly deserve it.
I thank you. I'm proud to be included among the women that you honored, and I'm glad to be here.
Well, great.
And I'm here with two sisters, and I say
Yes.
sisters because we all were non-traditional women who went
Yes.
to law school at the same law school.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And
And
Judge
that's
Green
a
and
shout
I.
out for Mississippi College.
Yes.
That's right. So I send, and as I sit here and help to recruit, that's important.
It
Look
is.
at Judge Green, and Judge Green and I both are Tougaloo alums.
We
Wow.
are. We are.
So now we get a shout out for two.
Okay.
It is. It's
Yes.
wonderful, and I do thank the Women for Progress for remembering.
Great.
And it's always wonderful to listen in. And the only thing that hinders us as judges who are women, I sometimes wish I were back in the legislature and had a different role. But it's isolating a lot, and you don't always know how isolating it is. And it's wonderful to be around sisters
Great.
in every arena.
Well, Judge, that's exactly what we're talking about, and we're talking about the roles of women in the law. What do you think is the unique perspective that women bring to law?
Oh, goodness. One of the things is that we've always been nurturers. And the law is supposed to be biblically based. So we've been nurturers and teachers, both scripturally and in the law. We understand men and children probably better than any other group of persons. And from where I sit and the positions I've had, it's been the thing that propels the African American race. It's always kind of been shouldered by both men and women, but certainly women. And I see it more now than ever in the courtroom, that women are, again, nurturing. And if we don't get our act together, we're going to lose another generation.
Yeah. And
we're unique in that sense.
And I look around, I look at former Judge Russell over there and you, and also the work that Ms. Bennett has done. Why do you think women come to law? What is you think they become to be advocates? What do you think most women gravitate to law?
I think we do it because we have a sense of justice. I don't know what all you talked about. We talked about the things about how we were educated, but all three of us have served as circuit judges. And I always say that circuit judges is where the rubber meets the road. We actually get to see people, but it's that sense of justice, not just in the courtroom, but in education, at the appellate level. It's a sense of justice that I think that draws us there. I can remember that the first time I wanted to do something in the first grade, it was to stand up for another first grader. And I remember that. I can remember all of the things that caused me to get up from my seat and do something. And I think when I look at Pat and when I look at EJ, it's the same thing that has propelled them to their positions. To be at a law school in Mississippi,
Right.
To have gone to the appellate court in Mississippi, that's unheard of.
And being run by an African American woman.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Is that what you get from your women law students? Is that the field that they want to make a difference?
Well, yes, I think, but you have to understand something that is unique about Mississippi College School of Law. We tend to create a culture of giving back, of helping, of sharing, because that is part of our Christian mission. And so that's very important to us. So students tend to gravitate to our law school. Some of them come in with that interest, and we help them to enhance and develop the interest in others not coming in with it. So I agree with Judge Green that women, oftentimes make the decision to go to law school looking to provide justice, and women are unique in doing that because as she talks about how women are so nurturing, then what they do is they have a broader perspective of things about bringing justice and how to help people and to do that. And so they come in with a certain reasoning power from a broader perspective. I think that that is important to what they bring to the table. And I always tell women, and I tell the law students, that oftentimes it's just getting through that door and getting in at the table. Because when you're at that table and when you come from that background, you do have a perspective that you will bring to any situation as you're trying to resolve problems, regardless of what areas, be it a legal problem or on a social issue or whatever it is. You bring that reasoning power to the table, and women tend to do that very well.
Well, we tend to be better negotiators, and we can work across racial lines. We can work with men as well as other women. We can have our differences, and we can still pull back together with a clear view of what our goal is. And oftentimes, we bring that to a table in a room of men who all feel they have to be the top dog in the room. And sometimes it's only because it's a woman lawyer in the room, whether when we're at the legislature or when we're at the judges conference, that brings that stability and breaks down barriers and pull people back together again. And that's important in every aspect of the legal profession, but it's also important in life.
It's the give and take. You know, we do that in families, we do that in the profession, in our offices, in the courtroom. It's the give and take and compromise of it sometimes. And so women are accustomed to being in that role, be it from being a mother and raising children, or just working in the community and recognizing that with all the diversity and everything that's there, because women see how one child even is very different from the other child. And we think of a role of women oftentimes as teachers and in the classroom, and certainly there's a place and a role for women there, and they're good at that too, because they know how to bring kids together and have the children work together, compromise, get along, and they know how to accomplish that. I hear oftentimes parents tell a child, both of you go to the room together and stay there. I'm closing the door until you can work it out and let them resolve, because again, it's all about that type of give and take and compromise. And after the children are there for a short period of time, they come out and they can play together, they can get along. So women just tend to know what it takes to reach that type of settlement, I think.
I agree.
I think you're right.
I often think about using other women and working with other women. If I'm going to have something and I need someone for education, I know where I need to call. But I also recognize that we are multifaceted. When I look at Pat and I don't mean any disrespect, but we grew up together as children at Tougaloo. When I look at where she is and what all she does, most of the time, women are so multifaceted. She does all of these things.
And well.
What are you talking about?
Well, thank you. I don't know so well. I'm just juggling a lot of balls. And
But they're not hitting the ground.
Trying to keep them all in the air.
Not hitting the
But
ground.
I also, when I think about things like that, I like to think of doing things that are complementary. I remember, you wouldn't know that EJ and I ran against each other.
Wow.
And even though we were
did.
in
She
opposition. But let me just say this. When the race was over, as all races are, there's winners and
Here's
losers.
the next day.
But this lady never asked for a recusal from my court. She always respected me when she came into the courtroom. And that was a very meaningful thing, not just for me, but for a community to see and for other women to see. that even though you're in oppositions on some issues, that women can come back together. They talk about women scorn, but don't believe that.
Right.
When it becomes necessary, we pull together. And I can remember that I needed somebody to come who was a judge, and I needed somebody to swear in judges. And at that time, I believe you were running for the Court of Appeals. And I thought about who could I bring over, who first of all would be a good example for other young women and young men too, because women right now are the best examples for some young men. And EJ came to my mind. And she was elegant. She did the job extremely well. And I think people got a different idea of who she was on the appellate court. And likewise, we always, or we should, oftentimes we don't, but we should always be looking for the good in each other and not the bad. And I think women do that. Just as a professor had said, we identify people's strengths and we pull on those strengths to make each other better and then make ourselves better in the long run.
Well, Judge Green, I'm glad you're sharing that with us, because when you talk about the qualities that women have, the skills, the talent that women have, and then all the research backs that up of how good women make better negotiators, but we still have that hurdle of getting people to go to the poll and vote for women.
Absolutely.
For political
We do.
office. It
We
still
do.
remains a struggle when we know that not only the research reveals that we as individuals, we know that the talent there, and that male and female, I hear men talk about it all the time. Women are better at this and women are better at that. So what do you think what is that missing caveat to make sure that we look at women differently when it comes to political office? We give them the support they need when they run, and we give them a look as if everybody else that's on the ballot.
Just for myself, and I've run for the legislature, and I've run for the judgeship. I think in order for us to get the positions, to hold them, that we can't run as enemies. There is no us and them when it comes to the African American race. It's no men or women. And I think when men begin to see us as equals who look like us, then we will begin to move into those positions. But we certainly have to have strong men who are backing women because they are the best candidate. Not just women backing women. There should be as many men backing women for progress as there are women, because we tend to back our men. And I think that what's missing is that sometimes we are seen as opponents, and we're not opponents. We all have the same goal, black men and black women, but we have to convince sometimes our men that because we are women, we are not the enemy. We are supporters for you, but there are times where we expect that kind of support from our African American males. I think we've come a long way.
We've come a long way, but boy, did we have a long way to go.
Absolutely.
Because I see so much
Absolutely.
disrespect in the political culture these days for women. And I often think about a saying I heard many years ago about, if it were not for a woman, you man would not be here. But there's just so much disrespect. You take the comments about Maxine Walters, and we're not going to get off into a political comment, but I didn't hear a word she said because I was looking at her James Brown wig and other comments. But just the disrespect from the males who are in leadership roles sets a bad example for young men coming along.
It does.
And I think one thing that we're going to have to really work on, and that is women are going to have to start networking more with each other. Because to be successful, in winning some elections, certainly it's going to require getting that male vote. And I tell, when I have friends running for positions and I tell them to network with other women, because every woman has some man's ear, be it her husband, her significant other, her dad, brother. Some have their boss's ear because they have done a good job there in the workplace. And so to get that man's vote, you have to have another woman whispering your name in that man's ear.
That's an approach.
So, that's an approach. And I tell them, I says, you have to do that, because so often men are not going to just vote for women, but they will listen to their mother. They're not going to disrespect their grandmother. We have to have women out there promoting other women.
Right.
Well, the other thing is, I'll go back to what EJ has said. I raised a boy and I raised a girl. And my son was running as a male with other women. But one thing he knew for sure was when you take the podium where there are women, you treat it like you're running against your mom. And that was what I kind of expected from him. And if he did any different, then I never heard it, because if I would have certainly been chastised. But I did know that was certainly a sensitive area. And I said, run on your records, because everybody is competent to hold the position.
Right.
And I think that we have to start, as mothers, teaching our sons to respect women.
Yes, thank you.
And that's why there are the comments that are being made. Mothers have to not have two different principles in their household.
Standards.
It says the boys this, and I do my girls this way.
Right.
Because boys pick that up. Because a lot of women don't support women.
Right.
They prefer male leaders.
Yes.
So I think it begins in the home with the nurturer. We have them first as their teachers.
And if we rocks the cradle, still rules the world.
And if we want to train our young men to respect women, it has to start with us, because we're the mothers.
Okay, we're going to take a call. Caller, thank you for waiting. You tuned in to Women for Progress Radio. You have a question?
Yes, I have a comment, and this is Silky. This is directed to Judge Tomie Green.
Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to let you know how much I respect you. I know you from Ferris Street. I have followed your career all that
That's
time.
a long way.
And you are my hero.
Thank you, ma'am.
I never told you that, but I just respect you to the highest.
Thank
and
you,
I
ma'am.
said, you go, girl.
Keep us in your prayers.
But I really do appreciate you all. And
Yeah.
thank you kindly. Here.
Thank you for calling.
Thank
Okay,
you, Miss
Lisa.
Silky. That was a great call.
You know, Juanita's going to be playing that music on us
Yes,
in a little bit.
yes.
So we probably need to have our guests give
Yes.
us some parting
Yes.
advice, words of wisdom.
Yes. And
Oh,
would like to
goodness
start?
gracious.
You want to go ahead?
No, you start now.
Well,
Finish up.
briefly here, we started talking about more opportunities for women in the workplace. And we talked about creating those opportunities, but I think another important thing that we're going to have to really look at, and that is equal pay for women. And the third thing is mentorships for the women. Once they're in the workplace, they need a good mentor to help them be successful. And that can be another woman. It's always helpful if another woman is there to do that, and if not, a man. But they have to have a mentor, pretty much. And the fourth thing would be for the networking opportunities for women to be successful. Men, you go to the golf course. Women are going to have opportunities to get on that golf course, to do some of the other things, to create some of the networking opportunities. For some of these decisions are made not in the conference room, but sometimes in a social setting where networking is taking place, and so women are going to have to be in the place. So I think those four things, those four areas are areas that we're going to have to work on for women, for them to be successful in the area of law and in so many other areas.
I would agree 100%. I would also, as a part of where we might, everywhere, whether you go into law, whether you're in the classroom, that every woman has a responsibility to the future and to provide and develop leaders for the future. And that's both women and men. I say that because I sit in a unique place and I see a generation now being raised by grandmothers. When I first took the bench, it was almost 20 years ago. It doesn't seem like that long, but my gray hair tells me that. And at that time, we had mostly men going to prison or going into probation. And I can tell you that the number of women who are going into the criminal justice system is probably triple. I'm seeing generations of women going into the system. The mothers there, the grandmothers there, and the great-grandmama is there. And I know that sounds wild, but you have to think that mothers now are very young. Grandmothers are 32, and someone is 60 can be caught up in the system. We, as women, must treat every child as if it's our child, because we have a responsibility to the future to provide lawyers, teachers, principals, mayors, legislators. We have that responsibility as women. It has always been about the thing that has propelled us both biblically, and it has propelled us in a time of slavery, and it propelled us after slavery. And we are not that far from it. And if we do not start providing leadership for the future, we won't have this discussion. It'll be salvation for Black people, not just salvation for women. I want to come back because there's some things that I think that we all want to tell the people in the audience. I'm older.
Okay, and I'm so glad you said that, Judge Green, because we've got that on the recording. You said you're coming back. She's committed, and also Dr. Bennett, we want you back also.
Thank you.
And we thank you all both so much. Thank you for your work. Thank you for your. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
You are wonderful.
Okay, you've been tuned in to another edition of Women for Progress Radio. Thank you so much, and we'll see you the same time next week.
Good to see you.